To Viz Review for this week, and our topic this week is meat production in Germany. For those who are new to Viz Review, let me tell you how this works. So if you're participating in Makeover Monday and you want some feedback on your Viz, you just need to post it to Twitter with the hashtag Makeover Monday. And then what you will see happening is that during Viz Review, during this weekly call, I go through the hashtag with the latest submissions, and I typically just go through those. I can't ever cover all of them, so it's a bit of a matter of just, I guess, luck of the draw whether I pick yours. But really the purpose is that I give some feedback on different types of charts, and hopefully everyone benefits from seeing what I have to say about them and being able to incorporate into their own visualizations. If you're new to Makeover Monday, you can find the data on makeovermonday.co.uk/data. And they're by years, and for 2023, Andy has posted those. We are in week 10 already. So there is a link to the data set, to the Watch Me Viz session that Andy does on Mondays. There's Viz Review, but also the source article and the data source. So with that being said, let's jump straight into it. And here is a Viz by Shunta. So let me open a new tab with the interactive version. So this is about meat production in Germany. No other context. I'm always a big fan of having some sort of introduction, so a little sentence or two about what I'm actually looking at. Now, meat production in Germany is pretty self-explanatory, but we are, in this case in particular, looking at poultry, pork, and beef. There is no game meat. There is no fish involved. Obviously, fish isn't meat, but you could argue, meat is dead animals. So that's the question here. And I would love to see a short sentence or two that just says, this is what this data set is about. There's two different dots. So small dot is years in which increase was interrupted. What's the increase? And then the larger circle is the year with the largest consecutive increase. But why does that matter? So I can see here value, the index is 100. So we're comparing everything to 2000, but I only know that because I know how to interpret that. Nobody tells me we are looking at the increase in meat production across different types of meat, comparing every year back to the year 2000. So I also don't know what the increase is because there is no tooltip. So I can kind of guess that this is about 140 compared to 100. So a 40% increase. But I don't know because I don't see the value. So while on the first glance, it looks like a really neat Viz, there's a lot of information that for me is missing that would make this a lot better. So I also wonder, what's the relevance of poultry production has increased for 8 consecutive years in 2014? Okay, why should I care? What does this tell me about meat production in Germany? What does this tell me about meat consumption? There's a clear trend that the consumption of beef is going down. The consumption of pork, while it initially increases, also seems to be going down. People get a bit more health conscious. Not that I think poultry is any healthier than those two, but that seems to be the consensus amongst, popular media and society. And what are people eating instead? That's what I would be curious about. Are they eating more fish? Are they eating more grains and vegetables? What is it? Are they eating just something else? So I think the aesthetics, so the visual itself looks great. It's nice and clean, but I would love a bit more information because I don't really know what to do with this information the way it is. So hopefully that was helpful. Brittany, I don't know if Brittany is online. She might be. She often dials into this. Oh, and yeah, she is, of course. Hi, Brittany. And Kobalan is there as well. I don't know if Andy's watching. He's at the airport heading for Australia. Actually, if there aren't any Australians watching right now because they are dead asleep. No, sorry, not dead asleep, fast asleep. But there might be, hopefully some people watching this, and Andy's on his way to Australia, and he's going to do some Makeover Monday lives I believe in Sydney, Melbourne, and Australia. Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, all in Australia. Anyhow, let's continue. So this is Brittany's viz. Meat production in Germany experienced the biggest year-over-year drop in 2 decades in 2020. Okay, good title. I need to think about it for a second because it's there's a lot of things in there. So it's meat production, it's Germany, so that's two kind of pieces of information. Biggest year-over-year drop. So biggest and then year-over-year and drop. Because the biggest and the drop throws me off a bit initially. In 2 decades in 2020. I would probably try and simplify that a little bit, Brittany, because as you can tell, I'm struggling a little bit, and it's not that I don't understand what you're saying, but I think it's because there's biggest and then there's drop, and then there's 2 decades and there's 2020. So maybe a simpler way of saying this, if I can try and think of something on the fly, is that meat production in Germany so it's experienced the biggest or the largest decrease, but I guess it's the year-over-year drop. But yeah, I think the other thing that I'm struggling with is year-over-year, it's 2 decades and it's 2020. So are we saying that between 2000 and 2020, the biggest year-over-year drop, when did this actually happen? In 2020? No, in 2021. Or in 2022. What year is this? Oh yeah, 2022. So is it in 2022 that the biggest drop happened? Because it's the one that's annotated, and that looks like is so maybe meat production in Germany in 2022. That gives us a little moment to pause. So then we know, okay, it's about meat production, where it is, and when. Was significant. Maybe was at its lowest. Since 2020, since 2000 or something. I don't quite know because I don't have the numbers in my head either. I can see the increases and the drops, but I don't know how 2022 compares to 2000. Is that hidden index? Yes. Okay, so maybe rather than the year-over-year drop, because year-over-year drop is compared to the previous year, but I wonder, does it make more sense to compare? Are you comparing those two? In which case, do we need the reference back to 2000, the 2 decades? Or maybe that could be something to focus on, is just how those 2 years compare. So meat production in Germany has experienced the single largest drop between 2021 and 2022. So in 2022, it was lower compared to the previous year than any other years. Let me quickly look at the numbers from the previous viz. So yeah, I don't know if that's correct in terms of the calcs, but I'm trying to just make sense of the wording. So each bar represents the percentage change from the previous year. Production is measured as a change in index from the baseline of year 2000. So yeah, I hope you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I think the title at first glance is like, oh yeah. But when I really try to understand it, I'm not sure I understand it. That's what I'm trying to get at here. And I think it can be reworded to be a bit simpler to understand. Okay. Colin. Oh, that was caffeine. So that's the previous week, but we have higher. Let's see. Oh, no, that's not what I had planned. I'm just checking. I think I can make this a bit bigger. Okay, Brittany has she has responded. So cool. So higher, comparing meat production in Germany 2010 and 2022. I guess, is that the dynamic title? Okay. I would put in there between and then the first number and the second number. Okay, so I have the base year. Then we have poultry. I would in addition to the icon, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I would annotate it because poultry probably includes things other than chicken. Is that I'm no meat expert, as you know, but does poultry also include duck, goose, pheasant? I don't know. That would be important to include. So a word together with those icons to indicate this is poultry, this is pork, and then we have beef. So this means that the baseline can change. Now, target. Yeah, I guess I don't know if it's really a target because it's not. It's just a comparison year that somebody has picked. So if I pick 2005 and so I can't change the target. Can I? Oh, I have to change it down here. Okay, so that's really cool. I like those two rows, the base and the target, and how I can change that. That's quite elegant. I like that. It's a bit squished. You can see that the numbers are really squished together. So I wouldn't suggest making the font any smaller, but maybe making the viz a bit wider. So that, or having apostrophe 05, 06, so just having it as 2 digits rather than 4 digits. So there's a bit more spacing. So what do I have to say on here? Again, a little bit of context. So under your title, have a short description of what this data set is about. Yes, the title is good and explains it, but what are these big numbers? So they are compared to an index, but that's not explained anywhere. So you want to say that the index is well, I guess in this case the index shifts, but explain that. Explain what the number means. It's not kilos, it's not tons, it's what is it? So that people can make sense of it. And then, I guess this tells me, so we've got 0 here, and then we've got -1. And why is the number 99? Ah, okay. Yeah, so explain what those numbers, like how to interpret those numbers. And I think that will make it better. And then down at the bottom where you have created, just put a space between the pipe and the word created. Okay. I just had to look down because maybe Maggie is deeply breathing under the desk. She's having a little nap. Okay, next viz we have Chi Sakaki, meat production in Germany. You can compare 2 periods. Should be your selected start year. Okay, what's oh, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this white thing is. 2011, end year 2020. Okay, so how do I change the selection? Okay, so I can't change that. But what if I want to? Oh, I think I just broke something. Or removed something. So if you tell me I can compare 2 periods, give me the option to actually do that. Otherwise, if you don't want to give me the option, that's also fine. Just say comparing 2 periods. And then I want to know, why did you select 2011 and 2010? Why did that just happen? India. Okay, so I can click on it and select India. But that now doesn't make sense because I'm comparing 2011 as the start year and 2007 as the end year, which is before the start year. So how do I now compare? Like there's a line drawn, but it doesn't tell me. It says year and amount. So where's the comparison? How do I now know how those 2 years compare, given that this is based on an index, but also given whatever you know about it? So unfortunately, it doesn't live up to its promise that I can compare 2 periods, because all I can really do is look at the lines and compare them in my head, but that's not easy. So if you want me to compare whatever years, maybe the most recent one. Oh, excuse me. Because we would compare over time. We wouldn't compare backwards. give me the chart, like a number or something that says, this much increase or this much decrease. Okay. Then we have Yusuki. Meat production in Germany, values in year 2000 equals 0. Hi, sweetheart. Poultry, pork, beef. Again, I need more context. Let me check something, because I want to have a quick look at the original. Reject. Always reject the cookies. Okay, so there's a little bit of context in the article. More on this topic. There isn't a whole lot, but and we don't expect you to do research or anything. Like, it's not required, but based on this, like, what can you actually define what meat production means, or how they've defined it? And then another thing you can put in there, is to at least describe what I'm looking at and what you want me to do. So tell me there's interactivity, because here, if I'm at least before, if I'm hovering, things change. And kind of tell me, what does baseline mean and what does 100, like those kind of things. Yes, it's a great looking viz, but it's not as useful if a viz is really good looking, but it doesn't give me the information I need to actually make sense of it. So always think about an audience that doesn't really know anything about the topic. Sure, you can assume that they understand the words, but for them to really understand and make use of the viz, they need a bit more context. I think oh God, I'm sorry. For people to, well, no, what I was going to say is I like the interactivity. I like that there is, for every year, the next one is the previous and the next one is labeled, I guess. Okay, so 2008. So I guess the number comparisons, they always relate back to the baseline. But yeah, so I think that the formatting is great. I would just give it a bit more context so people understand what's going on. Okay. Here we go, Jason. Meat production in Germany dropped in all meat type. Okay, yeah. Well, it's not in. It would be dropped for all meat types. And they're not all meat types, as we said earlier. So there's other categories as well, at least game meat. I don't know where lamb would fit, because it's not beef, it's not pork, and it's not poultry. So it's not all. Beef is the only meat type that dropped cumulatively since 2000. What do you mean by that? Dropped cumulatively? That's a very technical description, but I think it's, lay people wouldn't necessarily understand what you mean by that. And I don't know if cumulative, like, to, for something to drop cumulatively, it's not something I would use to describe it. So do you mean consecutively since 2000? Or do you mean overall? I think you mean overall. So, when you look at the increases and the decreases, there was more decrease than increase, whereas the other meat consumption increased, which I guess is partly to say people have moved from beef to pork and to poultry. I really like the viz itself. I like that the bar charts. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I like that the bar charts show very clearly when there was a decrease, and pork, interestingly enough, so I had one decrease between 2000 and 2016. The rest was all increase, and then it has been, this is, like the consecutive decreases over the last few years. Whereas with beef, it's been kind of up and down, which I guess is also something to do with trends, diet trends. And poultry has had a lot of strong growth, and then most recently, it looks like people have dropped it again, and that could be bird flu related, which at least in Europe we've had. It could be just budget, like people eating less meat because they have to, cut down on how much they're spending. But I really think that the Viz is a really good way to represent it. Now, again, explain what this year 2000 equals 100. So even just saying, everything is tied to a baseline of 100 in the year 2000, and the changes are related to that, or in relation to that. Cumulative change. Yeah, I don't know if you can actually use this index as a cumulative change. Actually, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Somebody can surely comment on that. But I really like the bar charts. I think they're very neat and a good way to see the trends and patterns. Okay. What do we have here? Jaya Subhashini has also done a Viz. So meat production in Germany, year-on-year decrease in pork and beef, markedly larger than for poultry. How do I see that? I think it's something that was taken from the original article, but I don't really know how I can see that, because everything looks very similar for beef. I can see an increase in pork, and I can definitely see an increase in poultry. It's very busy because there is a bar for every year. There's a arrow for every year in different colors, going up or down. There's the shading. There's a lot going on, and I can't actually easily see the claim that is in the subtitle. What I like the arrows, but in addition to having the up and down arrow, you don't really need the color as well, because you're double encoding it. Plus red and green, no, not together, please. So you could just have them, gray or blue or whatever color. But yeah, I also don't understand. Okay, what's going on here? So I guess the decrease is from the previous year. So why would you start with 100 kind of in the middle? Why not have that? Yeah, I guess you could do that, but you could, there's a lot of wasted. I don't know. I don't quite know. It's confusing me a bit. There's also a lot of repetition, like the index versus 2000. You could describe that once and then leave it off. Do they all need to go to 300? I guess you need to for poultry because it's got quite a lot going on. But yeah, I think it's just a bit busy, and you could too. So if you want to keep the colors, it's fine. Maybe make the labels a bit larger for the different meat types and use the color that you use for the bar, so it's a bit more obvious. This is all beef, this is all pork, this is all poultry. And the shading behind the years, I don't know, it makes it quite busy. Maybe play around with that as well. Okay, then we have Yaroslav. Let's check out his Viz. Meat production. Oh, reminds me a bit of Valentine's Day because it's kind of pinky. Meat production in Germany fell sharply in 2022. Okay, I can kind of see that. What else do you want me to take away from this Viz? Because in your title, you're highlighting 1 year, and that's fine. But there's a lot more going on, and that's not really commented on. And again, explaining where we're starting from and why. And then, yeah. But, I like the simplicity. The background, I don't really care for the pink. I think it just makes it a bit more busy. And meat production, I know it's a different color, but it's very similar to the color of the line for beef. So, keeping that a bit simpler and just and having the rest the same would be great. So removing the background, changing this to maybe just a black and white, and then having the 3 colored lines. Okay, we've got a bit more time. So Takafumi, who also participates, I think, every single week. So let's have a look at his Viz. Meat production in Germany year-on-year change with production in 2000 as 100. So again, make that easier. Make that a plain English sentence. Or, it could be any language really, but it could be a plain sentence so that it's not quite as statistical and it's a bit easier. So it should be, year-on-year change with production in the year 2000, set as the index at 100 or something like that, so that it's a full sentence and people know what those numbers relate to. So, okay, so we've got our index, we've got the 3 types with a label. I like the interactivity. It's just a bit slow. That's not your fault, obviously, but it's not quite as smoothly responsive. I would love a little bit of commentary on what you're seeing as a trend, like what's going up, what's going down. I know there wasn't much in the original article, but yeah, anything that helps me navigate through the viz as a layperson would be great. Okay, the next one is very similar, so I'm just going to skip it and see if there's something else. It's different. Okay, we've got arrows again. No green and red, please. Okay, here's the area chart in Power BI. Let's do that. I think Andy did a Power BI one as well this week. Meat production in Germany fell sharply in 2022. Year-on-year decrease in pork and beef production. So, yes, but what about poultry? So you don't mention it, but it's actually the largest looking chunk of the chart. So maybe just mention poultry, whatever the observation is, because it's part of the viz. Now, if you don't have to include it, of course, you could just have beef and pork, and then keep that as it is. But yeah, if you have poultry included, I think it should be mentioned in some shape or form. Now, okay, so they're decreasing, yes, but so the one challenge, now it looks nice. The one challenge with area charts is that beef has a nice flat baseline because it's the bottom area, but then pork is beef is the baseline for pork. Like the zigzags of the line of beef is the baseline for pork. So it's the shape changes simply based on what order these things are stacked in, and that's a bit of an issue because it makes it harder to compare unless pork also has a 0 baseline. But I don't know because I can't tell. Oh no, I don't know I don't know where the baseline is for pork or for poultry. Like, do they start at 0 and they're just so much bigger, or do they start, at where the previous one finishes? So that's something I would clarify. Okay, let's do one more quickly. Then I have to close it out. Oh, he's done one in Flourish as well. Great job. Let's have a look at Tanya's. Okay, so explore how meat production in Germany. Explore how it surged or fell in a chosen period in percentages towards the 2000 level. Again, similar to the feedback I gave Brittany, that's quite a bit to think about in a single sentence. So you could even just repeat the words and say, explore how meat production surged or fell in a given or chosen period. And then I would do a full stop and say numbers are expressed in percentages compared to the year 2000. Just because that, like, breaking it into 2 sentences, I think is a bit easier for people to understand. So I like how clean it is, but I'm kind of missing the axes because I feel it's hanging in space, but I can't anchor each line towards where's 0, where's my X and my Y axis, what's the gray line. I guess the gray line is 0 / the 2000 level. So I like the style of comparing it, but I need a bit more. Maybe even a label that says this is the baseline. So yeah, because I like that it tells me, but it seems to be, I mean, where are those? Oh, okay. So, aha. Okay. That makes it a bit easier for me, but at the same time, I still would love to have a label for the baseline and maybe, yeah, just a bit of a description of what's going on or an observation. But I like that this makes it super obvious how much something has increased or decreased. So, you know, beef just standalone, we see, wow, it's really dropped. Pork went up and then dropped again. So ultimately, it's not increased that much, but poultry has a huge increase. So I think in the vis is good. I would just give it a little bit more of an anchor visually. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close it out here. I hope this was helpful for people. And yeah, I'll be back next week, I think. Yes, we haven't scheduled it yet, but it will happen next week. So with that, have a great rest of the week, and I will speak to you then.